Hi, and welcome to the second part of our web series. In this presentation, we will review China's journey of development in the 20th century from 1980 to 2000. The goal is to understand China's development path and foster a critical understanding of its experience of development. Here are the topics that we will cover in this web series: an introduction to China's development strategies, key reforms across various sectors, the role of foreign investments, and the role of the state in the development strategies. Finally, we will conclude with some considerations and share lessons from this century. From our Alternatives to Development course, we learned that in history and by Western influence, development was often defined as a linear process of economic growth. From the Pluriverse, however, we learned that there's an alternative way to define development: an holistic process with impact on life, people, environment, society, driving transformation, basically a world in which many different worlds fit. Let's take a look on how China understands development in that era. In the 1980s, China shifted from a centrally planned economy to a market-oriented one. It aimed to modernize agriculture, industry, technology, and for China most importantly, the economy, while balancing socialism with market mechanisms. China's development strategies cannot easily be categorized in common development theories like the modernization, structuralism, independency, basic needs, or neoliberalism theory. But more on this later. For China, the 2 decades between 1980 and 2000 were essential. They saw profound reforms in various sectors, which we will explore now. Let's take a look at economic market reform. It is noteworthy that there has been a political shift with the new paramount leader of Deng Xiaoping after Mao Zedong. Mao Zedong focused on a strong anti-imperialist, anti-capitalist, and a strong self-reliance development agenda of China with some modernization theory elements. With Deng Xiaoping, however, the era of reforms began, where a shift from collective ownership to market principles for economic growth occurred. China's economic market reform began in 1978. The focus was economic growth, and the reasoning of Deng Xiaoping was to reach an improvement of livelihood through economic growth. That was his understanding of development in that era. Gradual adjustments were prioritized over abrupt changes to ensure stability. By the early 1990s, two-thirds of China's economy was market-driven, income rose, and labor shifted from agricultural to higher productivity industrial sectors. Rapid reforms in an effort to unify prices caused inflation and instability. China drew from that the lesson that there is a high risk of hasty reforms and thus preferred slow, gradual, incremental changes. Before the rural reform strategy, rural areas operated under the people's commune system. Land was collectively owned, income was distributed equally, and agricultural production was tightly controlled by the state. With the rural reform strategy, the household responsibility system replaced collective farming. Farmers retained profits from surplus production, boosting productivity and rural income. Farmers described the system as handing over the required amount to the state, holding back what the collective needs, and keeping the rest for yourself. Rural reforms led to increased grain production and reduced rural-urban income disparities. However, urban reforms lagged behind initially. The urban reform strategy's most important element was the authority division of managing public finances between the central governments and the provincial governments. Migration to cities was encouraged to meet the rising labor demands. Price reforms introduced a two-track pricing system where essential goods remained state-controlled while surplus goods followed market pricing. This transition balanced state control with market liberalization. By the late 1980s, there was a rise of non-state enterprises owned by towns and villages. The two-track price system increased farmers' income, but inflation persisted. One of the most famous social reforms is the one-child policy to control population growth. The result was rapid economic growth due to a decline in population growth. The aim was long-term economic and social stability. China's development agenda was not only set by Xiaoping and the Communist Party. Foreign investment and international partnerships played a further crucial role. A significant shift to China's openness to the world was the partnership with the World Bank starting in 1980. Further, China established 4 special economic zones and opened a total of 14 coastal ports to attract foreign investments. These policies boosted exports, created jobs, and incentivized companies to invest in China's infrastructure. By incentivizing foreign direct investment, China integrated into global markets while maintaining control. Throughout all development strategies, the state played a central role in steering and leading China's development. China's one country, two systems policy demonstrated flexibility in integrating the autonomous regions Hong Kong and Macau. The state continuously made an effort to maintain a balance between socialism and market liberalization. Struggles for a more democratic system were violently stopped by the government. The biggest example and a protest for freedom of speech in the 20th century is the Tiananmen protest incident. Let us reflect on China's development strategy. China leveraged its initial conditions, egalitarian land distribution, and high human capital. Authors advocate to not fall into a single narrative story when talking about China's development strategies, because it's more complex than economic growth. China rejected classical development theories common for Western industrial countries. China rejected the Washington Consensus, which is a rapid privatization of the market with complete price liberalization, and avoided the shock therapy, a rapid reform approach. Instead, China customized its development approach, adapting reforms as a unique path and at its own pace. So what can we learn from this part of the web series? China's development strategies differ from other countries, perhaps making China's development path a unique one. Let's discuss later. Now, everything seems picture perfect in this century for an economic growth-oriented country, but its story doesn't end here. The 21st century brings new challenges and opportunities as it continues to refine its development strategies. Let's take a look.